Live. Live to Facebook. Give it a second to do its thing. Here we go. We are live. Hello, world. Hello, Facebook land. Welcome to another installment. I'm very proud about how consistent I am being with it. It used to be a random podcast, and now it's a very consistent online talkback podcast. No one ever comes on and talks back, but who cares? Welcome to the next installment of Let's Talk Horses with me, your host, Sarah Watt, and my amazing, amazing guest today, Komal. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm amazing. I'm so excited. Every time I come on these podcasts, doesn't matter if I'm tired, if I'm not feeling great, I come on and I start feeling amazing because we get to talk about my favorite thing in the whole wide world, which is horses. So how did we get so lucky?
Totally. Yes.
So I always love to kick off this podcast. The very first question I always ask my guests is, how did horses come into your life?
Oh, that is so interesting because the first time I sat on a horse, I fell right after. So, and it was a bad fall. And I was like, I'm never doing this again because it felt like the earth had fallen on my head or something because that's how bad the fall was. And cut to the only next time I did sit or was near a horse was in my first CHCR class. And it made sense to me then finally why did I fall in the first place, because I wasn't present with the animal, so the animal was just giving me what I was asking for. And that's pretty much how horses came into my life. And yeah, I want to talk about one thing in particular. Can I just jump right into it? Because
Do
it's
it. Let's go. I love it.
I think I work with horses now, and I manage the social media of Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider currently. One of the big reasons is just the gratitude in my world sort of exponentializes when I'm with them, and that actually has led to I make more money when I'm with horses. I'm happier, my body is happier, and people around me are more relaxed. I mean, is there something you'd like to add to that? Like just how the
Well, I mean, even the word gratitude, right? Like in this world, we're taught to love, we're taught to like, and the opposite being hate or whatever that is. But within gratitude, it kind of is this all encompassing thing where you can be truly grateful for something. And it doesn't matter what that thing or that person is doing or being in the moment. You're just simply grateful to have them as part of your world. And for me, horses are the embodiment of gratitude. And the other thing about gratitude, when you brought up that word, then gratitude is one of the elementals, right? So the elementals is something in Access that we talk about where it's these elements from you've got the periodic table of elements of all the things that make up everything that we have here on this planet as things. But what if there were some things that were missed? And gratitude is one of these elementals that Access talks about. And the elementals are things that bring things into existence, that create greater. They're like the building blocks of a greater future, a greater reality. So for me, it's like having that space that you talk about with horses, when you can have gratitude for something. And if it's easy to have it with a horse, what if you could ask for that to show up in every area of your life? They're the building blocks that bring in the money, that bring in the peace, that bring in those things that you actually desire to have more of in your life, because you have that elemental very much present, and the horses are willing to be grateful for you. As grateful as you are for them, they're at least as grateful for you. And within that, you start to have more of the things that you desire in your life simply by, like, you don't have to ask them to do it. You don't have to plan it or send a wish to the heavens or anything like that. It's simply this thing of like, I'm going to interact with this creature, with this critter, and I'm going to be fucking grateful for every second of it. And from that, my life is going to get better financially, but just in general, I'm going to have more of myself. So, yeah.
yeah, and it's like, I mean, like how I'm grinning right now, that's how I am.
Even talking about them, right? Even talking about horses, you like can't help but be like this whole different puddle of gratitude energy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It is like I'm not explaining, but it's like my being shines through really when I'm with a horse. And and what I've seen is, so another thing I've started doing is, no matter who comes, if there's a friend nearby or if there's someone in the city who lives nearby, I'm like, hey, just come to the stable, like come whenever you can. And I see this with every single person, how their being shines when they're with a horse, even if they don't know anything about riding, even if that's the first time they're meeting a horse. It's just happiness. And like one of my friends, she met a horse recently and she started like braiding her hair, and all this creativity was coming through, and I'm like, it truly is fascinating. There's
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
they let you, like, I've got my 2 horses here in Australia that live here in my house, well, not in my house, but at my home with me. I wish they were in my house. That would be cool. But and just how different each of them are. Like, they are completely different. Like, everything about them is completely different from each other. They're both in the body, their creature body is a horse body, and they have all of the elements of what that is that makes them a horse. But essentially, their being shines through, like how you talk about, they allow your being to shine through because they're unapologetically them. Like, they don't hang out with each other. Like, I have my gelding, Ollie, my boy horse, and my mare, Willow, my girl horse. They're together 24/7, 365. They're always together, basically. But they don't become each other. They're not, she's not like, oh, now I'm hanging out with you, I need to behave or act a certain way. And he's not like, no, they're completely and utterly the shining beings of themselves. And they're unapologetically so. She's like, she has her certain attitudes about life and how she is about things and what she's willing to show you and how she shows that to you. And Ollie has his way of doing it. And they change and they become a little bit different, or through interacting with us. Like, some days, if I'm in like a certain energy, they react differently to me. But essentially, they are 100% all of the time themselves.
wonderful. Yes.
Yeah. And like, how many people do you get around that are willing to be like that? Like, most people are like, oh, I'm with Sarah, I need to behave a certain way. Or even with me, I'm with this person, I need to be. And it's a capacity as well. I'm not saying don't be what you need to be in the moment, but do it from the awareness of what you're doing and what you're choosing. Like, how many of us just go to this autopilot when we're in certain situations and change who we be? And the thing I love about this podcast, and if I had a reason for doing it, a goal is to show people how much horses can show us about ourselves, how much horses can show us about what's possible with when we show up as ourselves and we're willing to be that vulnerability in that space of us, because that's what they are. And really, that's a big part of what I get their gift to us on this planet, is that we get to be here together at the same time, us and them, is that they will show us everything that we come up against in life in a way that is really easy and a lot easier to handle than what the people have tried to show us of how to handle it.
A good point. Thank you for saying that. That just gave me a different sense. And I'd also like to talk about conscious horse, conscious rider, because in my first CHCR class, what I realized is, as the class was ending, in the class itself, I started getting more access to my being. And like, because I remember when we would go to the stable and do the exercises, like for the first time, I had like this spherical awareness where it was like I have everyone's back, and I was like, and I'm present with everybody, like no matter who's getting on the horse or who's getting off, and I was like that, and that relaxed me so much. So how present are we actually, which we don't really get to exercise in our daily life, but when you're with a horse, you have to be present. You have to be
Yep.
like there with them. Is there something you'd like to share on that, or
Yeah,
any?
100%, because that's what they are. Like, it's really like the thing that interests me about horses so much is also their evolution. Like, they're prey animals, right? Like, there's nothing that that they hunt, except grass. They'll hunt the grass and they'll eat that grass until there's no grass left, basically. But everything hunts them. Like their whole existence on this planet has been geared towards survival. But I think when we think survival, we're like, there's a challenge or there's a problem. But horses have turned it into this freaking art form where they are so, it's like a ballet and a symphony all rolled into one, the way that they exist on this planet with their level of presence, because they're not interested in just surviving. Like, obviously they need to survive, because if they don't, they get eaten or they fall down and hurt themselves and then they're dead, basically, because if they can't run, they're dead. But they don't look at it from that way. They look at it as this total thrival on this planet, like, and they're everywhere, like we have to cull them. We're literally shooting horses in Australia, which is horrible, and I'm sorry to say it, but they become feral in places because they've found this way to survive and live everywhere, and they will take themselves into all of the places and they will be there and they'll be like, we're here and we're showing up. And the reason they are so successful at that, in my point of view, is exactly what you said, because their level of presence with each other and the level they're willing to have each other's backs every millisecond of every day is what has created this space for them to be just, if there weren't people around, I feel like they would be the ones that rule the planet more so than we do. Like, I feel like they have perfected this
Yes.
thing called life, way better than anything else has managed to do. I think they are just exemplary at thrival, and they're just, yeah. So I get so excited. Talking about like how they are and just how they be, and like, and even talking to someone like you, like, have you truly acknowledged how much you are more horse than you are person? Like,
Not really, but yeah, when you say
right?
that,
Right?
yeah.
Like that exuberance for like being in question and wanting to be more present and acknowledging the times that you have that space. It's like, that's because you very much probably function like a horse too.
Yes, and that's why when I'm with them, it just relaxes my whole, because I'm like there are times when I'm not even, there are times I try to take as much of my work to the stable as possible, and I sit and I work there, because there's just something, even I would even talk about like the zone of awareness that we have. And I've seen that when I'm even in the vicinity of horses and working, and because you're aware, so you know that they're around, and you know that, like how you're saying you have them in your backyard, and versus like not having them around, I'm sure it makes like a difference to your mental, physical, and emotional well-being. Like,
Yep.
it's so nourishing um, to all aspects of my life. And I think that's is there something you'd like to talk about, like wherein, like this aspect of having horses now versus living when you didn't have horses, something like that, because it's quite how you do.
Yeah. And I remember, like, I've brought up this thing a lot where I've kind of, I don't know, been aware of this energy that all horses have, like that is a horse energy. Like, it's a herd energy, it's a horse energy, something that no matter if you have horses in Australia. I also have 2 horses in Costa Rica that live at El Lugar, the property that we're developing there. So I have my 2 horses here with me and my 2 horses there. But at any moment, it's almost like my horses from Costa Rica live in my backyard as well. It's like, for me, I've sort of started to realize there's like a global herd energy, like this energy of horses that encompasses the planet. And whether it's like an Andalusian in Spain, or whether it's a Costa Sensei in Costa Rica, or a thoroughbred in England, or a Australian stock horse here in Australia, like they've been bred to the conditions that they live in, but the energy that they share is similar or the same, like this global herd energy. So a couple of things with that. Number one, there's been a bunch of scientific research into the like the electro circuits or whatever. I don't know. There's like scientific stuff around the heartbeat of a horse, and how our heartbeat, when we spend a certain amount of time with them, actually sinks into their heartbeat. And that's why they are so good with working with people with PTSD and disabilities and stuff like that, because there's actually like this scientific, it's all good. She can join the Zoom. there's actually like this scientific side to how their bodies function and how it actually contributes so much to how our bodies function. So, you know, like what you were saying, if you have a chance to be around horses, even if you're not interested in riding, or maybe there's a field nearby to where you live, maybe you know of a stable close by, and you could just go and sit somewhere, even if the horses are, you know, 5-10 meters away, and just sit there and tap into that energy of them, tap into that, and ask your body to show you, and ask their body to show you what contribution that could be. And then when you leave that moment in time, just realize that that energy never leaves you. If you're willing to be part of it, this global herd that I'm kind of like aware of, it's inclusive of everyone, horses, people, like it's available and it's there for us at all times. So at any time you want to tap into what they're willing to contribute to you and what you can contribute to them, it's like, it's right there. It's available to all of us. And they just want to share it with us. They just want us to be a part of their world. They really are so inclusive of us.
It's amazing. And do you want to also, like, I have a question on behalf of Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider as well. Do you want to share something about what inspired you to join and become a facilitator with CHCR as well? Like, what was thought?
Oh my God. I've been like a massive horse nut ever since I can remember. Like I've just adored horses. Like horses have been, you know, and as a kid, I grew up, you know, we were poor, like, and plus we weren't just poor as in we couldn't afford horses, but I lived at the beach. Like I grew up on the Sunshine Coast here in Queensland, Australia, which actually is a very horsey place, but we didn't live in the horsey parts. We lived at the beach. Like we surfed every weekend. We were at the beach. But I remember, like, everywhere I could, I would get magazines, I would borrow books from the library, like anywhere I could just look at a picture of a horse was like Sarah was in absolute heaven. And my stepdad at the time, you know, the local dump, like the tip where you take your extra rubbish that doesn't get picked up by the rubbish service, you can go and drop off bigger items and stuff. There were horses nearby there, and my stepdad was like this mad tinkerer. He'd always be building something or doing something, so he'd go out to the local tip and he'd pick things up, and every time he went I'd have to come, because we would literally just drive past this paddock with horses in it. And that to me was like, you know, that was just this nourishing energy and this obsession of mine from such a young age, that even though I knew there was nowhere in my world that I could ever own a horse, I never thought I'd own horses. I was like, I don't care. I will look at them. I will look at them in pictures. And then I found this thing called access consciousness, where you actually start to learn that you can build your dream life. Like you can basically have the life that you desire. And, you know, Komal, it's like taken me, you know, I probably found access about 10 years ago. I'm in my early 40s now, and I literally live my dream life. Like I'm like, I have horses. I get to work with horses to the degree that I want to. And access, the thing I love about Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider is it's a horse class unlike any other horse, unlike anything else on this planet when it comes to horses. It's all the things that no one else is willing to talk about with horses. Like it's the things where, and I've followed, I've studied, I've watched, I've listened, I've researched all the different all the different types of horsemanship there is out there. And nothing in the world is like access consciousness, where it takes a look at horses through the eyes of consciousness. And I mean, access consciousness's definition of consciousness is inclusive of everything. What if everything was fine and nothing was judged? It's like, and looking at horses through that eyes, like every horse thing you go to, you're there to fix a problem. You're here because your horse has a problem. You're here because you need to improve yourself as a rider. You're here because your horse does this behavior. But no one ever is like, well, why don't you ask the horse a question? Or is there entities involved? Or like, nobody goes there. Everyone's like, you need to do more groundwork. And you know, a lot of those tools are relevant, but access takes all of that and adds about 5 billion other things to it that you would never even dream to think about, but that actually all work so well and so much quicker than everything else. Like And sorry, I know I kind of answered your question there, but I'm also very excited. And we had the Zoom with Gary the other day, Gary Douglas, who's the founder of Access Consciousness, the founder of Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider, and someone that infected my world even more with horse love, more than I even had before, which I didn't think was possible. Where he's like, you know, most horse people out there tell you need to repeat things over and over and over again for the horse to get it. But horses get things. They get them way faster than we do. And I was like, oh, you mean I don't have to do the same exercise with, because I get bored and then my freaking horse gets bored and then my horse ends up doing the wrong thing because it's picking up on my boredom and it's bored because I'm bored. And then most people would be like, well, you need to do more of that. You need to put more pressure on the horse. But the horse is like, dude, I got this 5 seconds after you asked it of me. What if we move on and do something else now? Like, what else can you show me? How much more fun can we have here? Like their point of view on life is more fun, more joy, more exuberance. Like, where can we go and run and play and have fun? So being able to facilitate these classes whenever I can is something that I never dreamed would be possible. And yet I feel like it's just the beginning as well. I desire to have way more of this in the world, and to, like I asked Gary on that Zoom, I'm like, oh, so maybe I could just like infect the world with this joy of horses. And he's like, that's it. Like, because, you know, I'm always like, oh, well, how can I appeal to this person? How can I tell people why horses are so cool? But you just show up and be this joy around them like you are. And every time I see your social media posts, then I'm like, girl, that is exactly how I feel. And that in itself is the best invitation.
Thank you so much. And you have a class coming up in April. How exciting! And we have a. Would you like to invite people to that? You're most inviting all the people near Australia and not even otherwise. We're having a clinic coming up down under. I think the first of the year.
Yes, it will be my first one this year so far, unless something else comes up. But yeah, I'm doing an intro and a 1 day here at my home. And then we're looking to come to India and do something there in August. I'm looking at Brazil maybe later in the year as well. But, you know, you work with all of us. You get to play and interact with all the Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider facilitators. So if it's not my class, or you're nowhere near Australia, or you don't want to spend 14 hours on a plane, I get it. Like, getting to Australia is also like a bit of a pain in the bum. But if you're in Australia, please, you can come and hang out on my beautiful property. I'm looking at creating more stuff too. Like, I would love to get these tools of consciousness with horses and what horses can show us, even into businesses, like learning leadership. Like, before Access, I managed big businesses, I managed teams of people, and like the ways that people try to teach you to lead people is like so actually counterintuitive to what we actually know. And horses will show us in a moment what it looks like to lead without force, to lead with clarity, and like being really conducive with what you're asking of them and of people. So I would love to see these tools spread into businesses and schools and all that sort of stuff too. So if you're not near Australia, or we don't cross paths in India or somewhere else that I'm traveling to in the world, I would just super encourage you to jump on the website, and we can post that link here again, and find one of the brilliant Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider facilitators that are nearby you, and get to one of these classes. Because really, like, even if you're like, I have no desire to ride a horse, but you know, I have a family, I have a business, I desire better leadership skills, better communication, I desire to have more of me, to trust myself more, to trust my choices more. That's all the stuff that you'll take out of this class. It's called Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider, but it should just be called having more consciousness in the world through horses or something, because it's like, it literally will cover absolutely everything. So, and let me ask you a question now, because I love that you're interviewing me, but I also want to know some information. So how many Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider classes have you attended? And what's one thing, if you could think of it, that you took from one of those classes that really changed your life?
I actually so far have just done one.
Oh my God, you're so enthusiastic after
Yes,
one.
I think I took the manual and ran with it.
I've seen your manual. I don't know if you have it there, but it's literally like covered in notes and
I
like
have it
all
here.
these.
It's like my go-to because I didn't realize how much information there is in the manual. Yeah, so that's like my favorite part of the class is the manual. Like really, like because I sometimes take the manual to the stables and I just sit with them and I just flip through it. And it has information about like hooving a horse and like how a stable should be for a horse, and everything under the sun that your horse needs to know about. And I see how it makes them so happy. Like every time, like I think the first time I went to the stable, I had the sense that they were like, who is this person and what is she doing, and like what is happening now? And I'm like, yeah, like let's do something different.
Yeah.
And some of
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
No,
and some
keep
of
going. Keep going.
so two of the horses have been super receptive to the tools, and they now like look forward to it. I'm slowly like pock and podding the stuff that comes up, because there is some fear that does come up sometimes when I'm engaging with some different horses and stuff. So it's a lot of, I would say it's a lot of work, but it is a lot of fun work as well. So
Yeah.
and it allows me to and at the end of it, when you go past the fear, what I've seen is everybody just wants to contribute and like receive and gift, and that is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And the manual too, like such a cool reminder, because in there you also learn a bunch of body processes that you can run on horses. Like access is a lot of it's a lot of things. It's like everything, but we do a lot of verbal processing. There's a lot of talking and manuals and written content, but we also do a hell of a lot of energy work and a lot of hands-on work, like on human bodies, but also there's a bunch of these body processes that also work on the horses as well. So do you run body work on the horses there?
Yes, yes.
And
So
what's your favorite, like what's your go-to process? Do you have one or?
yes, my go-to is the structural integrity, restoration of structural integrity, because they receive it like nobody's business, and I'm like, yeah, and I
Is it
can
a
see
riding school that you go to? Is it a riding school or yeah? So you can imagine what those horse bodies have been through as well, like carrying all of these riders, and their job is to get out there every day and be ridden by people and give lessons. So thank you for, because gifting that to their bodies and showing that integrity to the structure of their body and reminding them what a horse structure is like is phenomenal.
thank you. Yeah, no, this is
Yeah.
great feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like when you're with the horses as well and the fear thing comes up, it's really like just get in the horse's head and talk to them as though you were like part of them kind of thing. Like, can you show me if something's going to like, just be with them in a way where you almost like become one with them, and then perceive where the fear is coming from and if the fear is real, which it oftentimes isn't. But sorry, and if it's loud here, it's raining again. It's been raining all day today. Yeah, like looking at like what is the horse wanting to show me here, and if it wasn't showing up in my body as fear, would it be excitement or would it be something else? Yeah.
Yes, like there is recently this kid has been coming to me and he's like, my horse keeps bucking all the time. Can you like do something? And I'm like, okay, because I know I was like, okay, because I saw how Allison worked with Brookstone, and I was like, okay, because there's one horse who is a little ferocious, so I'm still sort of figuring out just what questions can I ask to sort of because she bucks quite a bit. So apparently the kids are very disturbed by that. So yeah, I mean things like this, practical things which I think the horses are also asking for. Because first I was like, okay, I'll just not work on her, but now as I'm becoming a little more confident, I'm like, no, what can I actually ask for with her as well.
Cool. Cool. And then my last question of you is, if you were going to invite someone to a conscious horse, conscious rider class, what would you say to them to invite them to one of these classes?
Well, I would straight up say, if you want to make more money in your life, because that has been, no, I'm very serious. Because before this, I was so in my head about money, and I was so like tensed all the time. And my whole financial reality has relaxed, like after, so I know money is a big thing, at least in a lot of our people's worlds. And because it's not just money, it's the joy that they bring, which then brings the money, is what I'm like, and the gratitude, like when we started with the conversation with. So I would say yeah, I mean, if you want to have an easier time with money, please come to a CHCR clinic.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think joy is one of the elementals as well. And there's also a saying in Access that is money follows joy. Joy does not follow money. Like, how many of us are like, I'll be joyful when I'm rich, and it never fucking comes. You're always constantly looking for that thing. But what if you went for the joy and you allowed the money to follow?
yeah, yeah, and it was like I'm like, I mean, I can't even explain how it's happened, but it's magical. In fact, like it's
Yeah.
just like
That's
how
what
you're
horses
saying, right?
are.
Like you have 4 horses now. Like how cool is that? And what will it take to have that as well?
Oh,
But
and it's just the beginning. I'm like already literally every day planning. I look at horses for sale all the time. And like, I'm constantly like, how can I have more horses in my life? Like 4, that's nothing. I want to have like way more than that as time goes on. So yeah, it's like, keep asking. And even how my very first horse out of all 4 of these was Pregonero. My horse in Costa Rica was like, I mean, I'd kind of leased horses before and sort of had part ownership of them, but he was my first horse that I bought with my money. He was mine, and he lived on the other side of the world to me. Like, where's the freaking understanding and logic that goes along with that? And that was all from a place of asking and being willing to receive. So yes, like you said, with the money, they will bring whatever you're asking for more of on this planet. They are more than happy to contribute to you. So, how did we get so lucky to have horses share this beautiful planet with us? And how did I get so lucky to share it also with people like you that have a love and a joy of horses that is like mine? Because I think that makes the world so much of a better place as well. So,
totally, yeah. Thank you so much. This was amazing. I can hear the
right?
voice for some
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah, I know. You can just perceive them everywhere. It's like they're just like, and I think that's why they get excited, because they're like, finally, some people on this planet that are asking us questions, that are willing to listen and to look at what we can contribute rather than, it being us telling them all along the way, you do this for me, you do that for me. Like, having these people that are actually willing to look at them and go, what can you show me? What do you know? Like, what are you aware of that no one's ever asked you before? So yeah, I perceive the excitement and enthusiasm in their worlds as well, based on this and us. So thank you so much. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for playing, with me on different projects and contributing so much to the Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider specialty. So we'll post the link for you guys to find an upcoming class. There's also a bunch on social media if you want to go and see a bit more about the Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider specialty. Or you can also invite a facilitator to your part of the world. So if you know some people who would love to have one of these classes, most of us are willing to pretty much travel anywhere. So we'll cover the globe between us, and we can also come to you. We just need some horses and a facility to run the class in, and we can do it in your neighborhood as well. So I wonder what that would change and show up in your world to have that available for the people that you know as well. So thank you so much, my friend. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for being in this world. And thank you for watching, whether it was live with us now or in the future. And we'll have another episode coming up next week. I can't remember who my special guest is. I think it might be Simone Millicis, but we'll see. Join me here. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Okay, stop that, stop that.